The Arban characteristic studies are probably some of the first etudes that most players play. They're towards the back of the book, and that means that you've got a couple of hundred pages of trumpet playing under your belt. They pose a lot of challenges, and they come more from the cornet tradition, which means they're lively, they're fast, and they get around the horn a lot. Right now I'd like to talk to you about number 4, which is one of my favorites. There are several challenges in here that we need to think about. One is going from triplet rhythm to duplet rhythm. And Arban gives us the added incentive to think more about rhythm because we have all of these grace notes that end up getting in the way. So you have to think about how it would sound without the grace notes and then put the grace notes in. Let me play the first few bars for you without the grace notes, and you can hear how strong the rhythm can be. If you'd written that, it would be pretty easy. But instead, we have to fit in, before each of the beats, one more note, the grace note. So there's several ways to work on this. Obviously, the most challenging grace note to fit in is the one that comes out of the triplets because you have less time to react. So what I'll do is I'll play the first bar, the grace note, and then the first note of the second bar. So we're just really focusing on getting that grace note fit in. You may also have heard the fact that I'm putting a little bit of a breath accent on the big beats, so the grace notes don't become more important than the actual written notes. Listen for it again. So with the air, I'm going. So I'm articulating the grace note, but then putting a breath accent on the first of the 16ths. In the second line, we start to have some arpeggios. And what Arban is doing here is reminding us that all that work that we put in learning our scales and arpeggios is paying off here. Happens to be B major, which is a pretty easy key. So this whole section is in E minor, so he goes to 5, and so we have our B major arpeggios. To get those to come out, it's good to practice them slurred, then all-tongued, and then to put the articulations that are written back into it. As we get on to the second section of the etude, where we go into C major, we have a chance to play with a little more panache because the rhythms slow down a little bit, and we have a chance to do a little something more musical. All we can do really musically in the first part is to make sure we direct through the dynamics and that we keep the air flowing well. When we get to the key change, we can do something a little bit nicer. You hear how I arch the dynamics and take a little time coming off the high A. It makes it sound more cornetty. If you've ever heard or played those old-time cornet solos, you know how much rubato is built into them. So this is a spot where you can really take care of that. This section continues on where it goes from the major into minor. You want to bring that out a little bit more. Arban gives us a hint by giving us a crescendo and increasing the dynamic, but you want to make sure you play fully. You hear how as we get down into that A minor, I'm playing a little bit more seriously with the sound, playing fuller through the 16th notes and making sure the air keeps moving well.